The distant planet of Veyara burned beneath the cold gaze of 1,000 stars. Smoke rose from the cities that once thrived here, twisting into the darkening sky as though the world itself was choking. From orbit, the alien warship Sorath Prime drifted like a predator surveying its prey. On its bridge, Galactic General Tharok, clad in armor that shimmered like liquid metal, leaned over the holographic projection of the planet. His multiple eyes, sharp and calculating, scanned the data streams. Reports had told him the humans were weak, disorganized, and barely worth the effort. Yet, here he was, curious, annoyed, and intrigued all at once. "Where is your backup?" Tharok's voice resonated through the bridge, deep and commanding, carrying a note of amusement. "You cannot expect to hold against us with this fragmentary resistance." No one answered him. His officers looked at each other nervously, unsure if this human would respond at all. In all his campaigns, Tharok had never seen a species that dared face him with such audacity. Still, the words echoed through the command deck, a challenge that demanded an answer. Down on the planet's surface, the streets were silent except for the occasional crackle of distant fires. Rubble littered the avenues where towering buildings once stood. Smoke stung the eyes. Dust filled every breath. But Sergeant Alex Mercer moved steadily through the ruins, his visor reflecting the orange glow of burning neighborhoods. He was alone, or at least it seemed so. His unit had been scattered by the orbital bombardment, leaving him the last known human commander in the region. Alex paused, crouching behind the remains of a collapsed overpass. His hand brushed over a console he had salvaged from a destroyed vehicle. With a flick of his wrist, a holographic map unfolded, showing the alien fleet above. He studied their formations, noting weak points in the orbital grid. A faint smile curved his lips. "You're looking at it," he said calmly into the radio transmitter, knowing that every alien sensor within range would hear him. The aliens were silent at first. The general's expression hardened. His mind raced. One human? Alone? Against a warship capable of obliterating entire cities with a single strike? Yet the words had been spoken with such confidence that even he could not immediately dismiss them. Alex continued to move, weaving between destroyed buildings and the jagged remains of streets. Every step was deliberate. He was not just surviving, he was observing, analyzing, planning. In his mind, he ran simulations, testing each possible scenario, calculating how to turn weakness into advantage. He arrived at a ruined communications tower and climbed to the top, careful to avoid the unstable metal beams that groaned under his weight. From here, he could see more of the surrounding territory. Alien drones hovered above the city like dark, metallic birds, scanning for any sign of life. Alex tapped into the salvaged console and sent a signal, subtle and encoded, out into the void. It was a call to all surviving humans scattered across nearby colonies. The message was simple but powerful. Survive, regroup, and fight. As the signal propagated, Alex set traps in the streets below. He rigged debris to collapse, wires to trigger small but precise explosions, and sensors to alert him to alien patrols. He moved like a ghost, never lingering in one place, always shifting, always planning. To an observer, it might have seemed reckless. To him, it was necessary. Meanwhile, General Tharok was becoming more unsettled. His officers brought him data from the drones, each report more confusing than the last. Drones sent to scout the human positions were returning shredded, sometimes before they even reached the city. Weapons designed to pierce steel were failing against unseen defenses. The humans were not only surviving, they were striking back in ways that seemed almost instinctual, unpredictable, and terrifyingly effective. "Impossible," Tharok growled. His claws tapped the railing of the bridge. They should not be capable of this. A junior officer hesitated before replying.
"Sir, the human... It appears one human is coordinating the attacks."
"It is using tactics we have not encountered before." Tharok's multiple eyes narrowed. "One human?" he hissed. "This is absurd. Prepare the fleet for a direct strike. No mistakes. We will crush it. Back on the planet, Alex did not pause. He monitored alien communications, noting the patterns in their coordination. He had no army, no reinforcements, yet he began to feel a strange confidence. Humans had survived impossible odds before. Survival was in their nature. Ingenuity and courage could become weapons just as lethal as any cannon. As night fell over Veyara, the fires cast long shadows across the ruined streets. Alien searchlights swept the city, probing for movement, but Alex had already anticipated their paths. He darted from one shadow to another, leaving decoys and misdirection in his wake. Every movement was calculated to confuse, delay, and frustrate the aliens. He paused at a collapsed plaza where a once grand fountain now lay in rubble. Pulling a small device from his belt, he activated it. Tiny drones, scavenged and repurposed, lifted into the air, their sensors feeding back to his console. They were not armed with weapons, but with cameras and communication relays, giving him eyes in every corner of the battlefield. He smiled again, knowing that even in apparent isolation he had created a network, a presence that the aliens could not ignore. High above, General Tharok's warship adjusted its orbit, preparing to deploy a strike team. But even as he issued orders, he could not shake a growing unease. One human alone had turned the expected massacre into a puzzle he could not solve. Back on the streets, Alex moved toward the remains of a market district. The place was a trap-ridden maze now, each alleyway carefully prepared. He activated a series of automated defenses, small but effective devices designed to slow down, confuse, and injure any intruder. Then he climbed a stairwell to the top of a partially standing building, surveying the city below. The alien drones passed, scanning for life, unaware that the human they sought was always watching them, always ready. In the quiet moments, he allowed himself a thought about the absurdity of the situation. One man, facing a galactic fleet, and yet he did not feel fear. He felt responsibility. Humanity had survived on ingenuity, resilience, and courage, and it would survive again. Suddenly, one of the drones made a mistake. It hovered too close, brushing against a hidden net Alex had set up. The net snapped upward, entangling it. Sparks flew, the drone crashed, and its signal back to the fleet was scramble. Alex watched calmly, noting the general's likely confusion. He whispered to himself, almost as a joke, "You're looking at it." It was not bravado, it was fact. The human strength was not in numbers, not in firepower, but in their spirit, their ability to adapt and endure. And tonight on Veyara, that spirit was alive in him. As the night deepened, Alex prepared for what was coming. The alien fleet would not wait. They would strike hard and fast, expecting easy victory. But he had already turned the ruins into a fortress of cunning, traps, and strategic advantage. Every move he made was designed to make the aliens doubt, to make them hesitate, to make them see that victory over humans was never simple. In orbit, Tharok's patience was thinning. "Deploy the strike teams," he ordered. "Do not underestimate the human. If it is clever, it is still only one. We will crush it." But Alex was already ready. As the first of the alien assault teams approached the planet, they found themselves facing an enemy that did not behave as expected. Streets lit up with traps, drones darted through alleys, and every attempted incursion was met with cunning, not force. The aliens had assumed weakness. Instead, they found intelligence, unpredictability, and relentless resolve. Alex watched from his vantage point as the chaos unfolded. His heartbeat was steady. His mind was clear. Humanity had always been underestimated by those who assumed strength only came in numbers or technology. But here, in the ruins of a city under siege, one human had become an army, a force that no alien could predict. And as the first night of battle ended, Alex Mercer knew one thing with certainty. They would survive, and the galaxy would soon learn that humans were never alone, even when they appeared to be. The morning sun rose over the scarred cities of Veyara, casting a pale light through smoke-filled skies. The streets were still, but the calm was only temporary. Sergeant Alex Mercer moved silently among the rubble, scanning the horizon. Alien drones hovered above, scanning the ruins with sharp sensors. But Alex had learned their patterns. Every move they made was predictable, and he had prepared for it. He crouched behind a collapsed wall, his eyes flicking across the ruined plaza. The place was littered with debris, but he saw opportunity in every broken piece of metal. He touched a small device on his wrist, sending encrypted signals to hidden survivors across the planet. Humans had survived the orbital bombardment by hiding in basements, tunnels, and abandoned shelters. Alex was beginning to bring them together. Slowly, carefully, like pieces of a puzzle forming an image that no alien could anticipate. From the shadows, a small group of humans emerged: children, elderly survivors, and a few younger fighters who had somehow evaded capture or death. Alex greeted them with calm authority. "We stick together," he said simply. "We survive, we fight, and we take back what is ours. Follow my lead." He led them through the narrow streets, avoiding open areas where drones could spot them. Using the ruins to their advantage, they moved as shadows, blending with broken walls and debris. Every alleyway, every overturned vehicle, every shattered building was part of a plan. Alex knew the city better than anyone, not as it had been, but as it was now, an intricate network of cover, traps, and possibilities. High above, General Tharok was growing frustrated. Every reconnaissance drone sent into the city failed. Some were destroyed outright, others never returned, and a few sent scrambled images back, leaving only fragments of what they had seen. He could not understand it. One human was outmaneuvering a fleet trained for war across galaxies. Tharok's officers tried to explain, but he would not listen. "One human cannot possibly be this dangerous," he growled, claws tapping the command console. "Prepare to deploy the ground assault. Leave nothing standing. If it survives this, it will be a miracle." Meanwhile, Alex had set up a temporary base in the ruins of a collapsed library. From here, he coordinated small strike teams, composed of hidden survivors. He had no formal army, no organized structure, yet his knowledge of alien tactics and his understanding of human ingenuity allowed him to form a force greater than its parts. He demonstrated the power of improvisation. An old water purification system became a makeshift flamethrower, rigged with flammable chemicals scavenged from nearby ruins. Abandoned vehicles were transformed into mobile cover and traps. Even simple objects, a pile of rocks, a broken door, a cracked wall, were part of his defensive strategy. The aliens had advanced technology, but they could not predict human cunning. Small skirmishes erupted across the city. Alien patrols moving through the streets were met with sudden ambushes. Humans appeared where they were not expected, vanished before retaliation could occur, and left traps that slowed the advance. One patrol, confident in its superior firepower, found itself ensnared in a network of nets and tripwires. When their weapons discharged, the energy ricocheted harmlessly against carefully positioned metal plates, giving the humans the advantage. Alex moved silently through the chaos, coordinating attacks, guiding survivors, and exploiting every weakness. He had become the brain behind a human force that was invisible, yet omnipresent. Each victory was small, but together they sent a message to the aliens. Humans were not easy prey. Back on the Zorath Prime, Tharok's frustration turned to anger.
"Why is it only one human?" he demanded. "Where is the fleet?"
"Where are their reinforcements? If it is only one, we will crush it and be done." His officers exchanged nervous glances.
"Sir, the humans, they are regrouping," one said cautiously. "They are small, yes, but they are organized and unpredictable."
"They strike from hidden positions and move faster than our scans can track. It is unlike anything we have faced." Tharok's many eyes narrowed. Unpredictable, he muttered. Perhaps that is the danger. Very well.
Send in the next wave. We will learn where it hides, and we will destroy it.
But Alex had already anticipated this. Using stolen alien schematics he had salvaged from the downed drones, he predicted where the next strike would come from. He positioned his teams, set traps, and created diversions. The aliens expected one pattern, one approach. Alex offered them 10. The difference between expectation and reality was a deadly gap the aliens could not overcome. The first wave of the ground assault arrived, armored walkers moving cautiously through the rubble. They were heavily armed, designed to crush any human resistance, but they were slow, predictable, and limited in perspective. Alex's team struck from above, below, and around the edges. Makeshift explosives disabled the walkers' mobility, while energy disruptors hacked their targeting systems. One by one, the machines fell silent, useless against the humans' cunning. From his vantage point, Alex observed everything. He saw the general's fleet preparing to respond, but he was not afraid. Every alien had underestimated him. Every calculation they had made assumed weakness, assumed surrender. But humans, he knew, thrived when pushed to the edge. By midday, the streets were littered with disabled alien machines. Survivors cheered quietly as they moved through the city, retrieving what they could and preparing for the next encounter. Alex gathered his team in a secure building, updating them on the plan.
"We have made them pay," he said, his voice calm and steady. "But this is just the beginning."
They will return. They always do.
And we will be ready.
He activated another set of signals, broadcasting across the planet and nearby systems. Humans scattered in colonies, hidden worlds, and remote outposts received the message. It was a call to action, a signal that one human could lead many. And from the darkness of space, some distant colonies detected it, feeling a spark of hope for the first time since the orbital bombardment. Tarak, observing from orbit, grew increasingly unnerved. His officers reported losses, malfunctions, and confusion among the ranks. Every strike was countered, every plan anticipated. One human was turning what should have been a simple victory into a nightmare. He gritted his teeth.
"Enough," he hissed. "We will end this tonight. Prepare the full assault. Bring everything we have."
No mercy. But Alex had not waited for mercy. He had already prepared for the coming assault. Using the city's ruins, scavenged technology, and his understanding of alien psychology, he set up the final defenses. Barricades were placed to funnel enemy troops into narrow passages. Explosives were hidden beneath rubble. Drones were reprogrammed to act as decoys, drawing fire and attention away from the human fighters. Every detail mattered, every move was planned, and every human who had survived was ready to fight. As night fell, the city became a maze of shadows, movement, and hidden threats. Alien patrols advanced cautiously, unaware that the humans were not only defending, they were striking. Snipers took positions in ruined towers. Teams moved silently through tunnels, cutting off supply lines. Even small children and elderly survivors played a role, acting as messengers, scouts, and distractions. The first contact came suddenly. Alien soldiers advanced into an alley, only to be met with a controlled explosion that knocked their formation into chaos. From above, Alex's team fired from hidden positions, disorienting the enemy. The humans moved like ghosts, vanishing before retaliation could come. Through the chaos, Alex remained calm. His mind raced, anticipating the general's response, predicting the aliens' adjustments. He had become more than a leader. He was the embodiment of human ingenuity and resilience. Each victory was a testament to the species' ability to endure, adapt, and fight back, even when outnumbered and outgunned. By dawn, the first full wave of the alien ground assault had been repelled. Machines lay broken, soldiers were scattered, and the aliens were forced to regroup. Alex's teams emerged from the shadows, breathing heavily but triumphant. They had survived another night, and more importantly, they had struck fear into an enemy who believed victory was certain. As the survivors regrouped, Alex looked out over the city. The fires still burned, smoke still rose, and the smell of ash lingered in the air. Yet, in that destruction, there was hope. The humans had survived, and they were growing stronger with every encounter. He spoke quietly to himself, almost as a reminder. You're looking at it. Not a boast, but a statement of fact. The human's strength was not in numbers or weapons, but in spirit, in ingenuity, in the unwillingness to surrender. And as the first rays of sunlight pierced the smoke-filled sky, Alex Mercer knew that the fight was far from over. The aliens would return, stronger and more determined. But he and the humans who had survived would be ready. They had turned the ruins into a fortress, their minds into weapons, and their courage into armor. The general might command a fleet, but the humans commanded something he could never understand. The alien fleet hung in the void above Veyara, a shadow of cold metal against the pale light of distant suns. Galactic General Farak's many eyes glinted with a mix of anger and obsession. Every report from his reconnaissance drones had ended in failure. Every plan to crush the humans had collapsed like sand slipping through fingers. One single human, was turning an entire campaign into a nightmare. "Deploy the full assault," Farak commanded, his claws slamming against the command console. "Every strike team, every walker, every weapon. Leave nothing standing. If it survives this, the universe itself will tremble." The officers hesitated. The humans had proven clever, unpredictable, and ruthless in defense. Yet Farak's pride would not allow retreat. He had underestimated humans before. He would not make that mistake again. And yet, even he felt the gnawing doubt of uncertainty, a rare sensation for a general who had crushed countless civilizations. Below, on the planet's surface, Alex Mercer observed the approaching fleet from a high vantage point in the remains of a skyscraper. His calm demeanor belied the tension around him. He had anticipated this escalation. This was the assault he had been preparing for, and every plan, every trap, every hidden defense had been designed for this exact moment. He activated the network of hidden drones he had deployed throughout the city. Tiny machines flitted through alleys behind buildings and over rooftops, feeding live information back to Alex's console. Every alien movement, every patrol, every approaching vehicle was mapped in real time. He studied the data carefully, noting their patterns, their likely paths, and the points where they were most vulnerable. The humans under his command moved like shadows. Scattered survivors, previously hidden in basements, tunnels, and abandoned buildings, emerged to take positions in the ruins. They were armed with scavenged weapons, improvised explosives, and devices modified from alien tech. Every fighter, every civilian, every volunteer had a role. Together they formed an invisible web, ready to strike and disappear before retaliation could arrive. The first wave of alien walkers advanced cautiously, their massive feet crushing rubble underfoot. Energy cannons glowed ominously as the machines scanned the city for life. But the humans had prepared. Hidden charges detonated beneath key support structures, toppling the first walkers and creating narrow channels for the others to follow. These channels funneled the aliens into kill zones where sniper teams and small squads waited. Alex's team struck with precision. Explosives disabled targeting arrays. EMP pulses jammed communications. Automated traps forced the aliens into predictable positions, exactly where the humans wanted them. One walker, a towering machine bristling with weaponry, fell into a pit lined with repurposed energy conduits. Sparks exploded as its systems overloaded, and the machine lay inert, a monument to human cunning. Farak watched from orbit, fury rising with every report. How can one human anticipate every move? He demanded.
This is impossible! Prepare the next wave!
Crush it! Alex, observing from his hidden command post, had already predicted the aliens' next strategy. They would attempt to divide and conquer, sending smaller strike teams to flank his positions. He had prepared for this. Narrow streets, hidden passages, and controlled demolitions allowed him to isolate and neutralize each team before they could link up. The humans were not merely defending. They were controlling the battlefield, shaping it to their advantage. From the shadows, Alex moved with uncanny precision, guiding squads via encrypted communications. Every decision, every instruction was calculated to maximize effectiveness. When one group encountered unexpected resistance, he redirected another, ensuring the aliens could never gain ground. His leadership turned scattered survivors into a coherent force, a single mind, orchestrating an invisible army. By midday, the aliens had suffered significant losses. Several walkers had been disabled, patrols destroyed, and supply lines cut. Tharok's confidence wavered. He issued orders for orbital bombardment, hoping to flatten the city and force a surrender. But Alex had prepared for that too. Using alien schematics salvaged from downed drones, he had reactivated old energy shields in key areas, creating protective zones that minimized damage from orbital strikes. The bombardment shook the city, but did not break it. Fire spread, rubble shifted, yet the humans continued to fight, adapting to each strike, exploiting every weakness in the alien assault. Even in chaos, Alex's mind remained sharp. Every attack became a lesson, every failure an opportunity to anticipate the next move. Tharok's obsession grew. One human, one mind, had turned his entire campaign into a trap for him. He could not retreat, could not surrender, and yet he could not predict the next move. Every calculation failed. Every tactic was countered. His fleet, vast and technologically superior, was being shredded by ingenuity, not force. Alex prepared his ultimate gambit. The alien forces would soon converge at the Central Plaza, a ruined area that once held a grand statue of Veyara's founder. He had turned the plaza into a death trap. Hidden explosives lined every avenue of approach. Energy disruptors hacked the aliens' targeting systems. Narrow streets and rubble channeled them into kill zones. Every step they took would bring them closer to defeat. As the aliens advanced, Alex's teams moved with fluid precision. Fighters emerged from hidden tunnels, striking from behind. Snipers picked off officers, creating confusion and fear. EMP devices disabled weapons mid-battle. The aliens were forced to fight not just humans, but the very city itself. Every ruin became a weapon, every shadow a threat, every corner a trap. Tharok's ground forces faltered. Walkers fell into pits, patrols were decimated, and communication lines were cut. For the first time in his career, the general felt fear, not for himself, but for the army he commanded. One human had turned an entire battlefield into a controlled experiment in destruction, and the results were catastrophic. Alex watched as the final wave of alien soldiers entered the plaza. They were confident, expecting to finally crush the human resistance, but the plaza had been prepared. Explosives detonated, cutting off their retreat. Energy disruptors disabled weapons. Hidden teams emerged from rubble and tunnels, striking from multiple directions. Panic spread among the aliens. They fought, but their movements were no longer coordinated. The battlefield had become chaos, exactly as Alex had intended. The climax came as Alex confronted the lead alien squad. He did not have the numbers, but he had strategy. Using the environment to his advantage, he struck quickly, exploiting every weakness. The aliens could not adapt fast enough. One by one they fell, their superior strength rendered useless against human ingenuity. Above, Tharok's fleet hovered, unable to intervene directly. His orders had failed. Every maneuver he attempted was anticipated and countered. The human, one human, had outsmarted an entire galactic army. He realized the truth, bitter and undeniable. The human strength was not in numbers or firepower, but in adaptability, courage, and cunning. As the dust settled over the plaza, Alex Mercer stood among the survivors. The city was scarred, buildings reduced to rubble, but the humans had triumphed. His gaze swept over the battlefield, noting every victory, every loss, and every lesson learned. The aliens would regroup, they would return, but he had proven that a single human could outthink an entire fleet. He activated the planetary communication network, sending a signal across nearby systems. We are not alone. Humanity survives. We adapt. We endure. And we fight. The message reached hidden colonies far beyond Veyara. Survivors heard it. Hope ignited in their hearts. Humanity was not defeated. Humanity would rise. And the galaxy would know that even when outnumbered, outgunned, or alone, humans were never powerless. In orbit, General Theroch retreated, humiliated and furious. He had underestimated the humans, and he would not make that mistake again. But for now, the battlefield belonged to Alex Mercer and the humans he led. They had survived the full-scale assault, they had turned impossible odds into victory, and they had shown the universe the true power of human ingenuity and courage. Alex looked out over the city, the first light of dawn breaking through smoke and ash. He whispered to himself, not as a boast, but as a statement of fact. You're looking at it. The backup, the army, the hope of humanity, it had never been a question of numbers. It had always been about the human spirit. The alien fleet lingered above Veyara, massive shadows against the pale blue of the planet's atmosphere. Galactic General Tharok's many eyes scanned the damage reports streaming from the surface. His pride had been shattered. His soldiers, his machines, his carefully calculated strategies, all had been outwitted by a single human and a handful of survivors. Fury burned inside him, but he could not risk further losses. He would retreat, yes, but not before ensuring that humanity would remember the power of his wrath. On the ground, Sergeant Alex Mercer moved cautiously through the streets of the city. The night before had been a storm of chaos and violence. Alien soldiers had been crushed, their walkers toppled, their advanced technology made useless by human cunning and adaptation. Survivors had emerged from hiding, watching the aftermath with awe and relief. Yet Alex knew the battle was not entirely over. The aliens would regroup. The general would not leave easily. Alex climbed to the remains of a skyscraper that had survived the bombardment, overlooking the central plaza. From this vantage, he could see both the ruined city and the distant alien fleet hovering above. He activated a series of drones, each small and nimble, feeding him real-time images of alien movements in the skies. The humans had won the battle, yes, but the war was far from over. He needed to ensure a decisive victory, one that would force the aliens to retreat and never return. His mind raced through possibilities, strategies, and contingencies. Unlike the aliens, Alex did not rely solely on numbers or firepower. He relied on ingenuity, adaptability, and an intimate understanding of both his environment and his enemy. He had turned the ruins of Veyara into a weapon. Every alleyway, every collapsed building, every trap had been placed with precision. Every move the aliens made could be anticipated. He coordinated with his teams, now fully visible and active after the initial skirmishes. Scattered survivors had transformed into organized squads, each familiar with the city's layout and the human strategy. They moved like shadows, striking quickly and vanishing before the aliens could respond. The sense of unity, of shared purpose, was palpable. Humanity was not just surviving, it was thriving against impossible odds. Tharok, observing from orbit, grew restless. He had underestimated humans before, but never like this. One human had orchestrated a defense that defied logic, that turned a ruined city into a fortress. that made his soldiers fall into traps time and again. He could feel the fear growing among his ranks, a rare and dangerous emotion for a species that prided itself on control.
"We will finish this," he hissed. "If it kills me, we will finish this."
Deploy the final strike. Alex anticipated this move. He had studied the alien fleet, their strike patterns, and their tendency to rely on brute force for decisive action. Using scavenged alien schematics, he had modified a series of old communication arrays to interfere with their targeting systems. Every orbital strike they attempted would be diverted or minimized. The city would withstand the bombardment long enough for Alex to execute the final part of his plan. The aliens advanced, their ships descending into the atmosphere in carefully calculated waves. They expected chaos, resistance, perhaps even surrender. What they found instead was a controlled battlefield. Explosives detonated with perfect timing, disabling key walkers and vehicles. Energy disruptors jammed targeting systems mid-fire. Human squads emerged from hidden tunnels, striking at the flanks, cutting supply lines, and sowing confusion. Alex moved through the battlefield, a calm presence amid the storm. His teams looked to him for guidance, following his commands with precision. Every trap, every ambush, every calculated strike was executed flawlessly. The aliens could not adapt, they could not predict. They were powerful, but they were rigid. And rigidity was a weakness the humans exploited relentlessly. In the central plaza, the final confrontation began. A small contingent of alien officers advanced, expecting to find a broken human force. Instead, they were met by coordinated human squads, strategically placed to exploit every weakness. The aliens fought bravely, but each move was anticipated. Explosives collapsed barriers behind them, cutting off escape. Energy disruptors disabled weapons, leaving them vulnerable. One by one, they were forced to retreat or surrender. Above, Tharok realized the depth of his failure. His fleet was still intact, but his soldiers were faltering, his strategy in ruins. One human had outmaneuvered him, outthought him, and outlasted his forces. He had underestimated humanity's adaptability, courage, and ingenuity. For the first time, he understood that power was not measured solely in numbers or technology. It was measured in the mind and spirit that wielded them. Alex activated the final phase of his plan. Using the city's ruins, the drones, and the remaining energy arrays, he created a system that could target the alien fleet from the ground, not with brute force, but with precise disruption. The alien ships began to falter, their targeting systems misaligned, their coordination disrupted. Panic rippled through the ranks. For every moment they hesitated, human squads struck further, widening the chaos. Tharok's fury turned to desperation. He attempted to order a coordinated retreat, but the disruption was complete. Communications were scrambled, ships collided, and several key units were forced to disengage. The fleet, once a symbol of unstoppable power, was now vulnerable. One human, one mind, had turned an entire armada into a scattered, disorganized force. On the ground, Alex watched the results unfold. His heart remained steady, but a small smile touched his lips. Humanity had turned impossible odds into victory. The survivors, hidden and scattered, were now a coherent force, capable of standing against a fleet that had once seemed unbeatable. Tharok, realizing the battle was lost, issued the final order. Retreat. Abandon the planet. Leave nothing to chance. The alien fleet lifted from the atmosphere, leaving the ruins of Veyara behind. It was a humiliation the general would never forget. One human had orchestrated a defense that shattered his pride and forced a retreat. Alex gathered his teams in the central plaza. They were weary, their bodies battered, but their spirits were unbroken. He looked out over the city, smoke rising from ruined buildings, fires still burning in some districts. Yet amid the destruction was hope, determination, and the unmistakable mark of survival. "You asked where our backup is," Alex said quietly, addressing the small group but knowing the words would carry far beyond. Now you know. It's humanity itself. The survivors cheered softly, not in triumph alone, but in acknowledgement of something greater. They had survived impossible odds. They had fought with courage, wit, and determination. They had proven that humanity, even when outnumbered and outgunned, was a force to be reckoned with. As the sun rose higher in the sky, casting light over the scarred city, Alex began planning the next steps. The aliens would not give up easily. Theric would return, perhaps with reinforcements, more cunning, and a determination to erase the human threat once and for all. But humanity would be ready. They had learned, adapted, and fought together. They had become more than survivors. They had become a symbol of resilience and ingenuity. In orbit, Tharok's fleet retreated into the blackness of space. The general's eyes, usually sharp and unwavering, glimmered with a rare emotion. Respect, begrudging and bitter, for the human who had outsmarted him. He knew he had faced something extraordinary, something unlike any species he had encountered before. And he knew, deep down, that humans would not be underestimated again. On Veyara, Alex Mercer stood atop the ruined skyscraper, looking over the city and the scattered survivors. He had done more than survive. He had led, inspired, and proven the indomitable strength of the human spirit. The planet was battered, the city scarred, but humanity had endured. One human had become an army. One human had become hope, and as the winds carried the smoke across the empty streets, Alex whispered to himself, the words carrying the weight of truth, pride, and defiance. "You're looking at it." The galaxy would remember. Humanity, though few in number, was never alone. The ingenuity, courage, and spirit of a single human had turned defeat into victory, hopelessness into strategy, and survival into legend. And this was only the beginning.